Hello and welcome to the Cavern of Chaos. I am flying solo for the beginning. I'm still waiting for Wilson. He's having some technical issues. I was hoping he had restarted his computer by now, but he should be coming in at any moment now. We were supposed to be on Jared's channel today, but unfortunately he's having some internet problems in his area, so we have no idea when he'll be coming in live. For the moment, I guess I'll be entertaining you with whatever. I've gotten some comics here from the 70s plus. Okay, this is yeah, Marvel 70s. I like Marvel 70s. It happened just before I was born, but the Brazilians were publishing a lot of that stuff still, even in the 80s, which is how I got to know a lot about comics. Okay, still waiting for Wilson. Hope he's having his microphone issues fixed. That's one of the annoying parts, is when we're hoping that everything works, but as usual, StreamYard does have some issues, which makes us have to restart everything. So what's going on, guys? This is the weekend's coming up, and it's really hot. Hopefully some of you will be able to go to the beach. I am not. I don't like the beach. It's full of people, and you can't actually bring comics to the beach anymore because they're not cheap. And when I was young, I used to take a lot of comics to the beach, or even buy them there. My dad would go for the newspaper, and I would convince him to buy me a comic so that I could read. But nowadays, you just can't do it. We don't have cheap newsstand comics anymore. Comics like this one, which is still here. I still have it here. I should have put it away. But these comics were pretty good. I mean, they're 80 pages. They have staples. They're digest size. They have 3 or 4 stories. And I could buy them at the beach, and I could read them, and I could fold them. I'm folding the comics and holding them with my hands. And they would have this would be the Hulk. So this is still Todd McFarlane's Hulk, and he's fighting Wolverine. See, Hulk, Wolverine, Todd McFarlane. This is pretty cool, then. And then we'd have the backup story, which at this stage was the New Mutants. Now with Jackson Geist doing his best to do a Bill Sienkiewicz impression. Sienkiewicz having completely redesigned the characters and even the feel of the strip. So the New Mutants did not just look like a regular X-Men spin-off. There's also, oh wait, is this the annual? It is the annual. No, it isn't. And Brett Levins then joins the New Mutants. Brett Levins had a style that was not appropriate to superheroes. So I always wondered why they would hire him. The thing is, it's actually much better than I ever gave him credit for, which means that he's actually not the best artist for superheroes. DC Compact or Marvel Premier Collection are priced comparable with a paperback book, so these might be ideal for the beach. Yeah, if you can get something that's under $10 and has about 200 pages of stories, that's a good ideal format nowadays, at least. We don't have comics at $1.50 anymore. And while we are, you know what? I'm gonna break the rules here today. While we're waiting for Wilson to fix his microphone problems and for Jared to have internet at home, I'm going to invite whoever is on. So here's the StreamYard link. If anyone wants to come in, please do. Better have some comics handy so you can show them. I've got a few things here, but I want to keep them for a little later. I have been rereading their Star Slammers complete collection from IDW. Hey, Meyer, what's going on? And as Sequential Geek is here as well. Yeah, I'm flying solo until Wilson can get his mic fixed, and Jared does not have internet today. But I have been reading Star Slammers. It doesn't have a continuing storyline, of course. The first graphic novel does not have a real follow-up. Oh, we're having stuff. Oh, and we're having people coming in.
Hello.
Wilson, you're working. Great. Oh,
Sorry about that.
Hey.
And we have Eric P, who responded to my invitation since we have no idea when we're going to have Jared here. I've just invited people, and this is the second time that I have Eric P here. He was very gracious to come online the last time both Jared and Wilson were not available. So what's going on, man?
Eric.
Not much. Just was reading some
now
comics.
Your mic isn't working.
My mic is not working? Let's see here. Let's try that again.
I was able to hear him pretty well.
Still no. Nope.
Wilson, you can hear me?
I can hear you.
Nope.
Okay. I just muted it.
Although I had some lag on my own video.
Okay, now Wilson is robotic.
Try that. Is that changing?
And okay, and now I'm listening. And I'm hearing you. Yeah.
Okay.
Looks like we're all set. What's going on, Eric?
Not a lot. We're just reading some comics, so.
Cool. Okay. Sequential Geek can hear people now. All right.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right, so we're on the show. Thank you, Eric, for coming on. Yeah, I obviously there's some force out there that does not want us to talk about comics. So of course, comics is bad for you. Wordsum was right, but we're going to keep preaching the word of comics. And I even got some this week, so I'm actually happy.
Finally!
What did you get?
We'll open up and show. And I actually read 3 of them on the train, so I'm really happy about that. So what was waiting for me from last week, and technically this week, we have G.I. Joe issue number 8.
Yeah.
What I picked up. Let me pull these out of the.
So I have read that issue and I really enjoyed it. So.
Oh, cool! I have not caught up with the new Joe stuff. I've been buying them lately, but I have a stack of books to read. But I've been looking forward to the G.I. Joe stuff because I've been enjoying the stuff Skybound has been putting out, especially with the Transformers stuff. So the G.I. Joes, which are appearing in the same universe, is something I'm looking forward to. I definitely have a love for G.I. Joe because it is one of my earlier.
I just want to point out the use of the sound effects there.
Oh yes.
That's helping to create that chaotic mood of what's going on, and I mean that sound effects is storytelling.
Very much so. Whenever a letterer can actually really shine with the artwork, unless it's also possible that the artist designed it to be that way too. Again, it's one of those things that can really pop out in a book. As I was mentioning before, I have a love for G.I. Joe mainly because it is one of the first books that I started collecting from like issue 1 to I think at least up to issue 100 before I even stopped reading it. But I'm pretty sure the Marvel run, I have a complete run. The next book I got is this again from last week, Yosaki Ojimbo, issue number 4 or 5. I know Jared did a review, I think, last week of it.
Yes.
Those are always good.
Yeah, these are always a lot of fun. You could drop into this universe at any time and never really feel lost. And it's just beautiful artwork. I really need to get more of his books. Next book that I
And the,
pulled off the pile.
and it looks like with Usagi Yojimbo, the art pops out a lot more now that everything is colored.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, it's definitely one of those books that the coloring helps. It's not always needed because his artwork is so good, but it just adds that little extra touch to it. It's like holding an animation in your hand, really. Uh, the next book we got Superman issue number 27. And from the Everything Old is New Again,
What's going on with Superman now?
I don't know. I have not read this book. I know that for a while, him and Lex kind of teamed up for a while. Like Superman owned part of LexCorp, or at least working with LexCorp. And in a recent issue, the betrayal finally happened. So, because we all saw that coming, and I am not too sure what else is going on in the book itself. But I did want to point out cover wise, and it's been a while since I really looked at the Superman covers. So they have the Superman corner box art here, which looks great. But DC wasn't really known for the corner box art. It was more Marvel. Then DC came along and did it for a little while, and then it disappeared. And to me, it's kind of fun that it's popping back up. So I'm just picked a random page just to show some of the interior art since I didn't read any of these. I only read 3 of the books, and it wasn't the books that were in this pile that I'm showing you. The books that I read were books that I happened to actually bought off the rack. And so this is the last book from the pull list that I haven't read yet, Amazing Spider-Man issue number 6. Nice black cat, Spider-Man on the cover. And the interior is John Romita Jr. I have not caught up to what's been going on in Spider-Man. I just do know that the last few issues, that's a lot of ads. The last few issues, people have not been liking, so I have not caught up since issue 1 on this. And this is issue 6, so I have 6 issues to go through.
People have been having some problems with Romita Jr.'s art for years, and I don't understand why. I mean, I can notice that there's an actual decline in quality, but everybody's talking like it's not supposed to be in comics at all. And I happen to find that whenever he does smaller panels, the art pops out a lot more. He does he plays a lot more with the storytelling, and so I think it's still coming out great. There's some figure drawing that isn't there anymore, but he can still tell a story, which is I think that's the most important part.
I think so as well. That he's a true storyteller. I've I've been reading his artwork so much for so many years. I've seen bad John Romita Jr. artwork, and I don't even want to call it bad. It's just that he was going through a transitional phase that you could visually watch. Follow his career. His early stuff was very clean, very much like his dad, because his dad was inking him for a few of those issues, and solid storytelling. Then he's jumping around here and there. So he was on Spider-Man, off Spider-Man. Before Daredevil, he was experimenting from Spider-Man to the X-Men on Daredevil. So you could see a transition. His Spider-Man second era, I guess we could call it, where he was really experimenting with like I guess, a minimalism type of a look, very much going towards the oh, I forget the name of the artist, Nigel. It was something like that. It looked like he was trying to take Nigel's type of art style from like the Duran Duran cover
Yes.
albums and then doing that in a comic book format. Because I always thought Nigel would probably be a really cool comic book artist, or at least cover artist, because I could see that kind of influence being there. And so I don't know if John was going in that direction, but he was definitely experimenting. And then once that run in Daredevil ended, where he kind of made a solid connection to his style and stuck with it, and it worked so well. Especially again, coming back to Spider-Man, it pretty much worked. I don't know if what the difference between his Superman DC artwork style went. I don't know if it was just because he had to produce stuff really quickly or he just didn't get Superman. Um, so it's like I could see why people didn't like it. But when he got back to the Marvel stuff, I think it's solid as he's always been. And, again, he's been doing it for how many years? Still producing pencil on paper. Some guys went digital. He's still doing the physical artwork. So, I would defend him eight ways to Sunday because I think he still does a pretty solid job. And I don't know, since I haven't read this last run, are people really complaining about the artwork or are they really complaining about the story? Because sometimes the person that will get blamed is the visual person. Oh, his artwork isn't that great because maybe he wasn't following a good story. I don't know. Since I haven't read those stories, I can't
Yeah,
comment on the story
I
itself.
think people do have a problem with his style nowadays, especially younger readers who've only started reading in the last 15 to 20 years. I suppose that's not younger anymore, but to me it is. But yeah, I remember a few years ago there was this guy who had started reading comics in under 5 years, and he was like 20. And he had a problem when during the in his Captain America run when he was in that Dimension X, and the kid had pointed out some panels where oh, look at the art, it's all weird. Now let's compare this to Gary Frank, and then he shows a very boring pose by Gary Frank on Superman with the usual face the that Gary Frank does, where the person doesn't know if they're disgusted or just annoyed for being in line at the DMV. And the Romita art that he showed, we kept. It was a wonderful piece of subtlety where you can see you can see the movement that you can tell the story just from because it was Cap and Sharon Carter. They were standing side by side, so they had he had removed the speech the speech panels. So I think there was some time where they didn't like having the speech on YouTube videos because of copyright restrictions. Yeah, and but it was quite out the body language of Cap talking to Sharon. Like these guys, I could tell these guys have known each other for many years. They're comfortable around each other. You could tell that just from looking at the art. So I really don't understand exactly what the readers are looking for in Romita Jr. when they fail to notice all of the storytelling and all of the subtlety and the body language, and so it just boggles the mind what exactly it is that they're expecting.
I find that a lot of people don't necessarily have the language to critique what it is about something that they don't care for. They're not able to say it's the line weight or the color choices or composition. think that people tend to, sorry, people tend to just say, I don't like it, but they don't
Your
really.
mic's dead again.
Okay, let's try that again. How about that? Does that work?
I still can't hear you.
Wilson, are you hearing me?
I'm hearing you fine.
Okay,
And now I can't hear Wilson either.
that's weird. Maybe it's your input for your headphones.
No, nobody's coming in. I can't hear anybody.
It's
Oh,
the
that's really weird because
it
I
is.
can hear you fine.
I can hear
I,
you.
Okay,
yeah.
you guys are back now.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe your earphones are not connecting. Are they
No.
wireless?
Yeah, they are wireless, but they should be working fine.
So what I
Okay.
was saying is, a lot of people don't seem to have a language for critique that gives a concept of what it is that they're having an issue with. It's either I like it, I don't like it, it sucks, or it doesn't suck. Some people do say, I don't like the writing, but I like the art, or I don't like the art, but I do like the writing. But talking about things like panel layout or composition or figure drawing or color palette or use of, like we were looking at those sound effects in that the GI Joe. A lot of people don't seem to have the language to describe what it is they like or don't like beyond just their gut reaction to things.
Yeah, I agree because each comic book per page has maybe the minimum of one, but up to 8 panels, and not every one of them are going to be winners. And if he's going to pick out one out of the whole thing, it can be weird to like focus on something. And I agree with you, Eric, that there are many people who don't understand the language of comics and how to talk about something to critique. It's just, he pulls out one panel out of a whole book. Is that the only thing he didn't like? What about the rest of the book? What about the rest of the panels?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Okay, looks like it may be my problem. Let me unplug my.
While you're doing that, one of the other books that I did pick up and read on the train is the second issue to Spider-Man and Wolverine. I got the alternate cover, which is the Eric Larson one, which is I mainly got it because it's Eric Larson drawing Spider-Man and Wolverine. So Eric's a friend of the show since we talk about a lot about Savage Dragon. So it's pretty cool to see Eric doing this issue. Now this book, I read it on the train. This book is definitely one that I bet people want to see because this is an all-out knuckle drag battle between Wolverine and Spider-Man. Um, as most great crossovers in the Marvel Universe, it follows the format of two superheroes meeting up together, and there's usually a fight when heroes meet because it falls through the trope of one hero thinking the other guy did something bad. In this case, um, we know that Peter's parents died. We know that the Red Skull was responsible for Peter's parents dying. So Spider-Man's under the impression that Logan was there. It is canon that Spidey's parents and Logan were spies together. So they're saying that the last mission he kills his parents. So then Spider-Man and Wolverine are going at it, and it is definitely that it's a dream come true to anyone who likes to go into the whole who would win between a character and another character. The art is very cartoony, but it's one of those things where it is very much characters going at it pretty much for the whole book. So it's not like it opens up and they're fighting for 3 panels. No, there is a wild fight between Spider-Man and Wolverine. So much so that Spider-Man hits Wolverine so hard that he does dislodge Wolverine's jaw. And so it is definitely some wild artwork going on. So it's all claws, all webbing. It's definitely one of those things where it's like, who would win? And it is a full book full of battle. So that was a lot of fun. The artwork for me gets a little wonky here and there. but nonetheless, it is a lot of fun. So I've been enjoying this little series. So got to read that on the train. Um, Another one that I got to read on the train is from the Invincible Universe, Battle Beast. And if you enjoy blood and gore in a comic book, this book has it. Beautiful artwork, a lot of text, and again, a lot of blood and gore. But a compelling story. And so far, I'm enjoying this. I didn't read Invincible, I only saw the animated series. So when they launched this book, I figured, let me give it a try. And I'm enjoying it a lot. I'm enjoying the artwork, and I'm enjoying how fun it is. So this is a good one. The last book that I picked up and I read on the train, you guys know I love a crossover. You guys know I love Godzilla. Godzilla vs. Avengers. So the Avengers that they picked for this particular story are the New Avengers. Each book has been their own standalone story. So this one happens to have the New Avengers,
Uh-huh.
and this is the aftermath of a battle that they do a flashback to, and they basically stumble onto Godzilla fighting Fin Fang Foom. And again, this takes place during the time that it was that roster of the Avengers.
Nice.
So it's some really good artwork. Crossover that also has Jet Jaguar makes an appearance. They go into a little bit of the lore of Godzilla in the Marvel Universe, and Maria Hill, I believe it's Maria Hill, is the one who is yes, it's Maria Hill, who's basically head of Shield at the time, and she's arguing with everybody why they did what they did, and then she also questions Fin Fang Foom and why he was there for the fight, which is again completely silly. And we find out the main reason for the fight is because Godzilla is called King of the Monsters, and Fin Fang Foom believes he's the king of the monster, and the title belongs to him. And again, sheer wackiness of a crossover that is like a must-have. You could jump in at any point in time because each issue is basically a standalone. Because again, it happens through different time periods of the Marvel universe where Godzilla pops up. A whole lot of fun and a whole lot of covers. So there's at least 7 covers to this one issue. And one of them, I think this one is the foil cover.
Mhm.
So again, just sheer fun of it. I almost got this cover because it has the trade dress of the old Marvel Godzilla on there. But this one I thought looked cooler. And again, a lot of fun reading on the train. That's my comic book haul for this week.
Yeah, that's the first time that the Avengers kind of engage with a big monster like that. Because in the original Marvel series, Shield were an antagonist, but the only connection to the Avengers is because they fought the Red Ronin once, and the Red Ronin was also one of the antagonists in the original Marvel series.
There have been a couple of in that series, in that run. They only had 24 issues. The same with the Shogun Warriors. 24 issues done by the same art team and never a crossover. You had 3 giant Shogun Warrior robots and Godzilla by the same art team, and they never had a real crossover. As you mentioned, Red Ronin was a crossover. So Shield was tasked. Dum Dum Dugan was tasked to go after Godzilla, and it was the monster of the week kind of, or monster of the month kind of storyline, and fun and silliness. One time, Godzilla was shrank to the size of a man, and Shield he was hidden with a trench coat and a fedora, just like the Thing. So it's like, again, wackiness of comics because it made sense. But there was I believe there was maybe one or two issues where other superheroes did show up, and I think there was I think the Fantastic Four had an issue. Godzilla, Fantastic Four appeared in an issue, and I think the Avengers appeared once as well. But I don't recall the story and how it went. But other than that, that's the only few times that he was in the Marvel universe. And there's been a bit of crossovers in the sense of sometimes Godzilla would appear but not officially. So in a Spider-Man annual, the Impossible Man turned into Godzilla when he was fighting with Spider-Man. So that was one panel or one page, and I think that was Art Adams that drew that issue. And then Mark Bagley drew an issue where a toy for Godzilla appeared, and Marvel got in trouble.
Right.
So Toho found out about it, and so Marvel had to apologize. Toho wanted Marvel to destroy the books, and said we can't. They've been out for like 5 or 6 months, but they had promised they would change the artwork and reprint any reprints. It would be a different monster there. And what's funny, they eventually reprinted the book in a bigger size graphic novel. They didn't bother to change the art. It's the same artwork, but Toho didn't catch them that time.
Just put a mustache on him and call it good.
Yeah.
What they did was they changed his head, and what's funny, the head they changed it to looks like another monster, a monster called another old classic guy in the suit monster. I think Monster X is what they called it because it had kind of like a weird spaceship kind of head that came out into a point, into like 3 points, and it's like you just change one monster for another, you could get in trouble for that too. But it never came back up again.
Yeah. All right. And meanwhile, here it is Central Comics. So this is the Portuguese language YouTube channel where I sometimes go there as a guest. It's also a website. So the website's owner Hugo also does production work in the Portuguese comics industry.
Nice, welcome.
And okay, as BPTS says, the Godzilla book can be down to one sentence from the Spawn movie, something that nobody watched. Why ask why when how is so much more fun?
And I saw the Spawn movie.
Yeah, so did I, and I had to go out into the boonies to watch it because it was not distributed in the big cities in Portugal. I had to go. I found it back in the place where my grandma used to live, and it's here.
By
Okay,
the
I'm going to
boonies,
watch
do
the
you
movie.
mean Spain?
Hmm?
I said by the boonies. Do you mean Spain?
No, there's a village in southern Portugal where my family on my dad's side is from, and that place is like population 800, and the movie theater is usually only open. Now it isn't anymore. Actually, at the time it was, and I could actually buy comics there. But the movie theater was only open during the summertime because of the tourists.
We got last minute tickets in the bullpen, and it was myself, Thomas Velasquez, maybe Johnny Green. I think there was only a small amount of us who were like, "Oh, we got these tickets. Do you guys want to go?" It's like, "Yeah," and we went, and it was an out of the way movie theater. It wasn't like a regular movie theater, in Manhattan. So it was kind of a little bit out of the way. We got there, we were enjoying it, was watching it, and then at the end of the movie, uh, some of the actors were there. So it was like the New York premiere, but there wasn't red carpet or anything. It was more like, oh, here's a last minute ticket to a movie. You guys want to go see it? Sure. We saw it. We enjoyed it. We spotted Angela just walking in the party scene, and the only way you could tell is her because she has Spawn earrings, and that was it. Nothing said about her at the movie. It was just a nice little cameo, and it was enjoyable. It was John Leguizamo was there, and the actor that played Spawn. But that was it, and it was like it's something that was thrown together for the New York for the guys in New York, um, and I think that was the only time I ever saw the movie. I don't think I ever went back to watch it again. I don't even think I own it on DVD. But it was like it was fun for what it was.
Right. I remember the special effects were nothing to write home about, but
No,
we weren't
no,
really
not at
expecting
all.
much. I I think that Martin Sheen phoned it in as Jason Wynn. He obviously didn't care to be there at all. So, of course, this was before the big superhero boom. So there were still a few actors who were ashamed of being associated with superhero movies.
Yeah, I could see that. It definitely the special effects do not hold up, but they were good for that time period. For that specific snapshot, pretty sure that was before Blade. It was, after Ninja Turtles. So it's in that gap of where they were trying movies to become franchises.
Mhm.
And they're each were entertaining at that spot. So I put that there with the Phantom, with
Shadow.
Ninja Turtles were the big thing. The Shadow, Dark Man, those little mini hero movies that lean more into pulp, especially Shadow and the Phantom because of Batman being so popular. They ran out to go see, okay, what's available. And so they went for the Shadow to try to make that into kind of a Batman clone. Um, but the Phantom, I loved it. I think they would have done great. That could have been a franchise. Shadow was entertaining, but these were just one and done kind of thing. I think
Yeah.
Spawn falls into that. It's not
Yes.
until Blade that makes it, oh, we're going to do another
Mhm.
one. And I
Yeah.
think they snuck in because it was horror more so than superhero.
I have the Spawn movie recorded in a VHS here. The second part of the tape has got Judge Dredd. Yeah. Well, one thing about Spawn, while it certainly has its flaws. It's certainly better than Steel.
Yes.
Everything was better
Yes.
than Steel.
Yes. Unfortunately, so it just again that's those types of movies is where ego comes along and somebody messed that up.
Mhm.
Where
And,
it's like it just wasn't. You, you take the Superman aspect out of it.
mhm.
I don't even know if Superman exists in that universe. So
I
I
don't think
can't
it
I
does.
can't even I don't even remember enough of it to
Yeah,
even be able to critique it because I only
yeah,
saw it
me
the
neither.
one time
Mhm.
and that's it. I never went back to it.
Yeah, yeah. I only saw it once on TV, and yeah, at the time they weren't thinking about is Superman in this universe. There are no universes.
Yeah.
Um, I once talked to a friend of mine, and okay, in when it comes to these old superhero movies, um, superhero comic books don't exist in those movies because every time a superhero shows up, the everyone makes a big deal out of it, a big deal about it, as if they've never seen this, they've never even thought about the concept of a superhero. There's nobody saying, "Oh, I used to read superhero comics." It's like
Right.
something strange and new. Some guy dressed up in a tight costume or in an armor, and he's beating up bank robbers. Yeah, it's a superhero.
Yeah, exactly. So, and this is during a time where I firmly believe that Warner Brothers was embarrassed to own a comic book company. and did not know how to deal with it. Batman was successful besides Warner Brother being there. And I think that's the thing with Steel. Steel is an interesting and a great character, but you take the Superman part of it out and it doesn't really work.
Right.
And sure, of course someone can make it work. You know, you could have easily said he was inspired by him reading Superman comics. And then boom, there's your Superman connection. You know? So that was the thing where it was like, you know, you have a great character. They could have done something with it, but again, it falls into the rush of, hey, superhero stuff is happening. Let's make as many characters as we can without, yeah, you don't have to connect anything. It can work on its own. The connection just makes it a little more
Right.
fun. But again, at the same time, is why were some of these decisions being made? And it's because of those execs that have no idea how comic books sells anyway.
Yeah.
So they have no idea really how to make a comic book movie.
Yeah, and remember, Spawn was not exactly a superhero, even though they did use the red part of the costume in the movie. But I remember at the time, Todd McFarlane, he had his followers outside regular comics. Remember that he did the artwork to a few music CDs. I think he did some for Korn.
For Korn.
Yeah. So we did have some crossover in the creative world from people who normally would not have read superhero comics.
Yeah, so it's like, but you know, it was one of those crazy times.
Let's all agree the best comic book adaptation of the '90s was The Crow.
Most probably. Most probably.
Yeah,
All right,
I
you
never
guys.
actually saw it.
Oh, it does look somewhat dated, but for the time it was quite good. They managed to capture what was special about that book on film. So,
Yeah.
you guys want to see what I think is the best book from this week?
Sure.
All right. Is anybody else reading Absolute Martian Manhunter?
Yeah, I've heard that thing is way out there.
I heard it was out there. I have not picked one up
This
yet.
art is amazing. First of all, this is more of a crime book than a superhero book. The art is just spectacular. Just the use of those colors and the shapes and the shading. Yeah, just, I mean, look at this. Do you see any panels like this in any other mainstream Marvel or DC book that you can think of? And then
No.
is this not like the Hernandez brothers more so than your stereotypical DC book? Yeah, I've been impressed with this whole series. Here's the A cover. But this issue just very, very impressive. I mean, just look at the use of the shadows, the use of the color. Just
Right.
so
It's a comic. Yeah, it's a comic about a shape changer. So it doesn't have to look like a person moving normally. You can imagine even John Jones's thought processes. They can be something more fluid than what a human would perceive.
Oh, 100%.
Oh yeah, that it just the visuals of that kind of reminds me of Vertigo. Also,
definitely.
just you know, and I like the use of those colors. That does look really cool.
Yeah,
I'll
even
put that on
Shade
my
the
list.
even Shade the Changing Man.
Yeah.
His powers could have that effect, but even in the Vertigo version of his comic, they didn't push the envelope in the same way that they're doing over there.
Yeah, and this isn't tied into anything. This is issue 4, which just came out. So issues 1 through 3 are out there. And once again, we were talking about the storytelling with that G.I. Joe. This also uses here's another image. Look at the words on the face there. That, you know, to kind of literally indicate what the person is thinking but in a way it's so graphic and so much more impactful than what we typically see. Yeah, highly recommended. This easily is going to be on a lot of people's list of the best Marvel/DC books from this year.
Mhm.
So yeah, I was very impressed with that.
Okay. In Guardians of the Galaxy 2, there's a scene where Stan Lee is talking to the Watchers, which implies that he's a character who exists between the Marvel universes. He's aware that everything is part of a narrative, almost metalinguistic. Well, it's Stan Lee's part in a Marvel movie, so there's always a
Yeah,
little bit of overthinking.
yeah, it's just fun cameo for fun cameos. There was a rumor that there was an idea that the old Cap that we see at the end of Endgame was going to be Stanley, and again, a rumor, and then it fits the narrative is that it's always been Steve Rogers, and every time there's a cameo, it was him checking in with his friends, and it's a fun little concept, but it's like it doesn't work narratively. That was just, again, what it is. It's an Easter egg of Stan popping up, so just again more fun with comics.
Yeah. Okay,
All right.
SVPT says, from Dennis Kemp, I've been reading The Ultimates. He's a very interesting writer to keep an eye on. Uh, I, I think that they didn't the if the Ultimates was going too slowly in the current iteration, and I think that the comics are gone now. So, and Captain Infinity is here. Hi.
He's serving up coffee. It looks like.
Mhm. And there's a DC comic where the art is not taking advantage of the writer, and it's New Gods. I mean, the art's not bad, but it's Ram V. He's going to go for crazy concepts, and he's been very good at starting from Kirby's Fourth World concepts and adding his own, and it all builds up on what Kirby had previously built. But the art, it's just kind of there. It's too normal. But
sometimes normal can be good. So here's another one I got this week. I pick up the first 2 issues of the new Supergirl, which is not a book I've ever read, but hey, we got a DC cover here that's got word balloons and a large monkey on it. But this is like a very fun Silver Age kind of a romp. And the artwork is very cartoony. It fits the story very well. This is solid, fun, accessible storytelling. And sometimes that's what you want or what you need.
Yeah, trying to replicate Michael Turner's style over there, but it is a little bit less serious than what Turner used to do.
Well, and once again, this is a very kind of, she's got a dog, she's got a cat. There's a super bunny in it. It's it's cute, it's fun, it's light. It's not
I like that idea.
I would say. Sorry, Wilson.
I like that idea. Sometimes you want something fun. That other cover with the gorilla on it is a lot of fun. It harkens back to the Silver Age, and every time DC wanted a little bump in sales, they would put a gorilla on the cover.
There's actually a gorilla in the issue too. So
awesome, yeah. The gorilla stuff always sold well.
Yeah, but that's a great 80-page giant cover.
Yeah, that definitely is.
Let's see if I can find the gorilla real quick here.
It reminds me, I wanted to pick up the facsimile of the first Crypto issue, and I forgot to pick that up.
Here.
That came out, I think, last week.
There it is.
Yep.
Oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good body movement.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is not a book that I would normally have picked up, but I thought it was a lot of fun. So I'm going to pick up a couple issues and see where it goes.
Yeah, because sometimes you want books that are fun, because sometimes I think it's a little too serious, and I find sometimes when they want to make the book real, it becomes unreal. It becomes where a point it's like, it's all talking heads.
Yeah.
After it gets boring so quickly, and it's like, oh, no, I want to see, obviously the fights, but I want to see the fun stuff, the downtime. I think some of my favorite X-Men books is when they're playing, softball, they're playing baseball before an action begins. I think that's a lot of fun.
Yeah. In the Kick-Ass films, comics do exist. They're part of the story's reality and directly influence the characters. Yeah, but that's the thing about what Mark Miller does. There was a way that the superhero movies were made before Blade, and you can see it in the Superman and Batman movies as well, because all the modern versions starting from Christopher Reeve's Superman, and then with Michael Keaton as Batman. All of those movies, there's Superman and Batman exist apart. They just exist in their own movies. But when they appear, even though the stories are set in the modern day, it's the 70s and 80s. So we've had superhero comics for a while, but in those universes where Christopher Reeve's Superman and Michael Keaton's Batman exist, they don't have comics because just the idea that there's a man flying, and in the other one there's a guy dressed as a bat beating up criminals. That's completely alien to them. So when Kick-Ass is turned into a movie, it's already part of the big push for comic book based movies, and it's made by a fan. So yeah, you're going to take advantage of what the medium could produce. But before that, when everyone was ashamed of doing superheroes, yeah, they didn't want to use all of the weapons that they had at their disposal, and it kind of made the product weaker.
Yep.
Yeah, I picked up Supergirl too. My daughter saw that there's a Super Bunny inside, and she demanded it for our collection. Yeah, it used to be gorillas in the color yellow. Now it's Super Bunnies. That's what's going to get the kids to pick up the comics. Okay.
Thanks, guys, for having me. I do need to take off. But,
okay, no problem.
All right,
thank you
for stopping by,
enjoy the
Eric.
rest of your evening.
Yeah.
Take care.
Yeah, cool seeing you. See you. So yeah, thank you, Eric, for giving us a little bit of your time. I may do this if we can get a full panel. I'll just throw the link for anyone interested to pop on. In the meantime, Jared had bought something by Greg Rucka, and I had taken out the Queen and Country, so maybe I'll still sit on it for a while, see if he comes in. But I decided to go take out some of the 1970s Marvel trade paperbacks from the shelf. So yeah, Machine Man.
Machine Man.
I never thought of Machine Man as a Kirby character because my first contact with it was with the Barry Windsor Smith miniseries.
Right. That was in the 80s, and I remember liking the covers because they were so interesting. Mm-hmm. I don't believe I picked those up.
Yeah.
Or I may have, but it's one of those things I don't recall.
Yeah, but reading these stories, you can see all the crazy concepts, and it's kind of a continuation of what Kirby had been building with things like OMAC. Before this, there's a little bit of the Eternals as well, like when aliens show up, or they're all living robots. Of course, this is a continuation of 2001, but right. Unfortunately, the trade paperback can't have the 3 issues of 2001 in them, so it just starts with number 1.
Right, because those were Marvel Treasury editions.
Yeah.
2001, and I think his story was a backup story.
No, so the ongoing series uses the monolith as a storytelling device, a MacGuffin, right. And it seeds life throughout the cosmos. And in issue number 8, Kirby decides that the seeding of life is going to happen on an artificial life form, which is Mr. Machine Man. So in the ongoing Machine Man series, of course, the monolith is not mentioned. Oh, by the way, I got it signed by Mike Royer.
Oh, cool. Nice.
But you got a lot of cool stuff here, and it's that typical '70s storytelling where the characters don't really act like they're completely normal, but
Right.
they make the way they talk makes sense in the story that Kirby's telling. And you have a lot of crazy concepts. But then the comic got canceled. The the Kirby's plot lines were wrapped up by Roger Stern in the Hulk. So here he is, yeah.
Right.
And then the comic gets resurrected with Ditko art, and now it's it looks completely different because even though the Ditko is not listed as a plotter, but you can tell that it's following that the storytelling is mostly following Ditko's beats,
Right.
even when Tom DeFalco takes over from Marv Wolfman, and so there's a lot of weird weird stuff you like, these typical Ditko designs,
Oh,
and
completely Ditko. Yeah.
yeah, and Machine Man is trying hard to be a human in this, and is not very good at being a human. There's a little bit of a change in personality when compared to the Kirby run, and also there are a few new characters like Gears Garvin, who appears in Barry Windsor Smith's miniseries, and even the villains they're different. Like in the other case, they're science fiction concepts, and here they're more like human representations of human emotions, like Baron Brimstone here, who only seems to exist only for crime, which is something that Ditko used to do, and also Madame Menace, a very strange design. Good. Let me bring myself up
Kind of
here.
has a little bit of that Betty Brant kind of a look, and then just dumping the eye makeup on her, make her look
Yeah.
insane.
Mhm. But if you read all of this, it does kind of make sense altogether. You see it as Machine Man moving from one place to the other, and it's actually quite fluid, even with the few years that between the two half runs. Also, there's a I don't know how they managed to do this, but Sasquatch, Aurora, and North Star from Alpha Flight are in this story, and they look very strange because I think this is the first time that anyone other than John Byrne had drawn Alpha Flight, and it's the it's this.
I forgot they were even in those. Well, I don't know. You know what? I don't think I've read I read any of those issues. I know I've read some of the miniseries that Barry Windsor Smith did, and then after that, he may appear a couple of times, and then it's not until I think in the 2000s he comes back when they had like a Marvel was kind of doing a techno line. The
Mhm.
Warlock, Exo Man of not sorry, not Exo Man of War. Um,
There's,
uh,
there's
Machine Man was I think being called X-51 because that's
yep,
the other name he has, and
and
then Cable, I think was the third one in that kind of no Deathlock.
Deathlock, and
Deathlock
it's
was in that third kind of
yeah,
thing that they were doing. It's like techno issues.
yeah, because it's a spin. It was a spin off from Cable. There was that Shield agent in James Robinson's run, no, in Joe Casey's run,
Yes,
and the guy gets turned into Deathlock.
right. That's
Here's
right. So
something.
they had those issues. Yeah, that was the last
Mhm,
time I consciously remembered Machine Man in anything.
mhm. Yeah, since then they haven't really been able to do a lot of good things with it. I mean, Warren Ellis was clearly joking with the concept when he did the what is that thing called? Uh, the thing that Warren Ellis did with art by Stuart Immonen. Elsa Bloodstone was in there, and Boom Boom. I forgot what it was. I can't
It's
believe it.
not ringing a bell. I know they had a Bloodstone issues where the daughter took over.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but other than that, I don't really remember.
Because I actually bought all the issues in that, and I thought it was really really fun at the time, and I can't believe I forgot that. Why did I forget? It doesn't make any sense. Uh, Let me check out Warren Ellis's bibliography because it should be here. So where's Marvel? Elstone, Next Wave. That was it.
Next Wave.
Next Wave. Yeah, that was the thing.
That wasn't John Burns. No,
No, that's
that's
Next Man.
that's Next Man. And next,
Yeah, the Warren
maybe
Ellis
I'm
started machine.
confused. Maybe I'm confusing it with New Wave, and that was in the '80s.
Yeah, next wave. Yeah, Next Wave was Monica Rambeau, a guy called the Captain, who dressed like a soccer hooligan from the UK. Uh, it was Machine Man, Elsa Bloodstone, and and Boomer from X Force.
Huh. I completely missed that.
It's a 12-issue mini.
What year did that come out?
2000 around 2002. Let me
Huh.
check. No, 2006. Yeah.
Ah, okay. I was out of Marvel by 2004, and probably by 2006, it's like I'm not buying anything to test out. I was getting like core books, and then that's it. Because once I was paying for my own books, it got expensive really fast to be a Marvel zombie.
Yeah, I mentioned Barry Smith's Machine Man. The thing about Machine Man is not in this trade paperback. I have it in the Iron Man 2020 trade paperback, but it's not here with this Machine Man, unfortunately. No,
Okay.
at the time she was in Next Wave. She wasn't Photon. She wasn't Spectrum. They just called her Monica. It was a little bit like, well, since it was Alice making fun of everything, it was also making a little fun of the fact she couldn't hang on to a code name.
Ah, okay.
Captain
That does
Hooligan
sound like
sounds
fun.
yeah, Captain Hooligan sounds delightful. I mean, it's typically British. Even in an American comics, you have the British guy taking American pot shots at the British. Another thing from the 70s I have here is probably out of all of those 70s comics that never went anywhere, a lot of them are very good. And then there's this one, which is not. Skull the
Soul
Slayer.
Slayer. I know nothing of it. Can I see that cover?
Sure. Let me put myself big.
Is that Gil Kane?
It is Gil Kane.
Ah,
I can't remember who's Zink. I don't think that's who's Zink again, but let me check here. It's Al Milgram.
okay. Skull
Al
the
Milgram.
Slayer.
Yeah, it's Al Milgram over.
So is it Conan in modern times?
Kind of. It's a bunch of unrelated people who end up in an island full of monsters and wild animals and old old structures and things that look. There's caveman and there's medieval stuff. They end up going to a tower where they see a robot version of the 1950s Black Knight, the one from the 5th century. None of these guys are able to work well with each other. There's a lot of changes of writer changes in an 8-issue run, so it doesn't hold up well. And there's a there's no big change in personality because none of the characters are fleshed out enough. There's one of the this guy's one of the main villains. I can't even remember what he was called. Slither Rogue. And then the comic got canceled after 8 issues, and they have to end the story in a Marvel 2-in-1, which basically confirms that it is set in the Marvel universe.
Okay. I may have had gotten that 2-in-1 issue because the name is not unfamiliar to me, but I couldn't tell you if I ever read an issue of that. I put that in the same category of like Warlord of Mars. You see the books around, but never actually read it. It's like, is this part of the Marvel universe or not?
Yeah,
Type of thing.
yeah. It doesn't. It's that thing. It doesn't need to be, but as the all of the writers did back then, eventually we have to put it in the Marvel universe just because.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing I think that the main character, Jim Scully, he became the Blazing Skull during in the Midnight Suns imprint during the 90s, and
Huh.
even that was sort of forgotten. They gave him powers. He doesn't have powers, but he does have a belt which grants him super strength.
Okay. Because those are around.
Hmm.
You could do a whole series on just the forgotten heroes or the misses, because they were a lot of hits, but there was a lot more. There was a lot of misses,
Yeah,
and it's
ultimately
amazing.
this is like the land that time forgot. So the concept is that, but it doesn't really go anywhere. There's a scientist guy that Jim Scully, Skull the Slayer. He's a soldier who is being taken to court martial, and then there's a kid who's running away from his congressman dad. He's like 17 or 18, and he's angry at the world. And there's the scientist guy who doesn't have patience for someone uneducated like Skull, and they all end up in the same place, and they have to survive together, even though they can't stand each other.
Okay, that's definitely a lot of 80s and 90s tropes that would
Mhm.
eventually be used in movies and shows, kind of like Sliders and
Uh-huh.
stuff like that, where or the various remakes of Land of the Lost. Uh, so yeah, that's definitely a product of its time. It's like, what can we use? What's in public domain? And let's get them on an island. Yeah,
Right. Yeah, and that's what could have kept it apart from the Marvel universe, because it didn't really need to be. Here's something else. There was not supposed to be a part of the Marvel universe, but now it is, which is Star Lord. And this here collects all of Star Lord's pre-Annihilation appearances, all of the stories from the Black and White magazines. And of course, there's nothing here that says that Star Lord is part of the Marvel universe.
right. Because that he started off, I think, in a one shot in Marvel Premiere
Marvel preview number 4.
preview.
Yeah, this is it. And it was created by Steve Englehart, but then and there was going to be a Star Lord magazine after this, but Englehart quit Marvel. There was no Star Lord magazine, which also meant that the Sword in the Stone was stuck at 2 episodes. And the art is by Steve Gann, who is one of those Filipino artists that Marvel used in the 70s. There's a Steve Gann story in Skull the Slayer as well, but here this is from the black and white art, very detailed. And they ended up not using a few of the concepts. So the next time Star Lord shows up, is in it's by Claremont and Byrne.
Okay.
So it's this version.
Right.
Oh, here's something cute. So this is the cover to Marvel Preview number 11, and you'll find this blurb over here: a novel-length science fiction spectacular in the tradition of Robert Heinlein. And Robert Heinlein found out about it, and he threatened to sue. Marvel managed to pick up and destroy most of the print run, but and reprint the story without the reprint the comic without the cover blurb. But a few people still have it. So now I guess the Heinlein estate doesn't care, and they just reprinted it inside the trade paperback with that blurb.
Oh yeah,
Here's
I'm
one.
I'm sure that estate is not picking up
Hmm.
old issues from Starlog.
Yeah. Here's the third appearance, is number 14. So we have a Jim Starlin cover.
Right.
Starlin was actually pretty good at painted art. Too bad he didn't do much of that. And then the story inside, I think it's Bob McLeod. No, it's Carmine Infantino. And actually looks good. Carmine Infantino with inked by Bob Wyachek. Then there's there's the story with the lion-headed people. Where is it? It's this one. Yeah, this one this one's the one with Bob McLeod art. No, this is Bill Sienkiewicz. Bill Sienkiewicz and Bob McLeod. That's it.
Oh,
So
okay.
this was preview number 18. This is the one with the Lion Man, and it's a good fit. I mean, this is still Sienkiewicz doing his Neil Adams riff, but Bob McLeod has that style, that inking style that makes the turns the art into his own.
Right.
As you can see, Sienkiewicz is doing some amazing stuff here. But that was the problem with Star-Lord. He would show up here and there, and then they had a try at the even in the color comics, so Marvel Spotlight. This one is art by Tom Sutton, and it just doesn't really. The character didn't really get a foothold anywhere. I remember in the late '90s, in the news groups, and people sometimes say, "Hey, which obscure character would you like to see brought back?" And every once in a while, somebody would mention Star Lord,
Right. It,
because
yeah, it's one of those, space concepts, that's like, oh, he's a character that visually looks cool and you want him to be cool. But he, as you mentioned, he never got a foothold into anything. And, he could have been really headlining the black and white magazines if those really lasted. But, that was Marvel Premiere only went up to, oh, I don't even know how many issues. It didn't really last that long. Like Conan is the only thing that really survived Marvel's runs of magazines.
Mhm. Yeah, Marvel Preview didn't have any permanent characters in itself.
Right.
It was always changing. And but there, people did wonder if it was a part of the Marvel universe, because let me see if I can find those characters. Uh, Shakati, Shakati.
Baseline guy reminds me of
Mhm.
for Buck Rogers, the animated series had a
Yeah,
space line guy. So those always work well.
yeah.
Heck, even
Okay.
what I'm reading now, Battle Beast is a space line.
Mhm. Here it is. So, okay, let me see if I can show. Yeah, this character over here and this one over here. they have a cameo in the in Lilandra's spaceship during the Dark Phoenix saga, because it was also Byrne. And I
Right.
think Byrne's just dropping them there. It's not supposed to be serious, but they do show up, and they do show up in a cameo in that Starjammers mini series that was drawn by Carlos Pacheco, because Carlos Pacheco loved Star Lord as well.
Right.
That's why there's a version of Star Lord in the mini series, in the Humans mini series that he did with Jose Ladron.
And it's
Uh,
also,
yeah.
with the cameos, that's also Terry Austin too,
Mhm.
dropping in cameos as well. Because I think Popeye also appeared on the bridge.
Yeah.
So a lot of that, of course, is John Byrne, but Terry Austin was also good into sneaking characters into the background, especially those big space epics.
Mhm. Let me find something here. It's interesting. Where's the cover to that thing? Where's that thing? It's not here. Should be. Here it is. Okay, so um, there was a special edition in the 80s where that John Byrne story was colored, reprinted that story in color, but the cover art is by Terry Austin. And then in 1996, there was Star Lord magazine, which also reprints that story. And this is actually the first time that John Byrne draws Star Lord on the cover, almost 20 years after having drawn the character.
Hmm?
Yeah, I just found it interesting. And they did this reprint because they had decided to bring Star Lord back in the 90s, but it's a different character, and it's a mini series in prestige format, which was written by science fiction writer Timothy Zahn. So this is completely so. This is a completely different character. He's just wearing the uniform, and he takes over Ship, because Ship is alive. She and Star Lord lost each other, and so this would be sometime in the future, after the 70s and 80s stories,
Uh-huh. And,
and
and
and they just continue.
are they using Ship from X Factor?
No, it's Ship, the sentient ship that was in love with Star Lord. So she
Okay.
appeared in the story. Ship was given to Star Lord by the Master of the Sun, and
Okay.
here she has a human body that
Right.
that she uses.
Barely remember that story, and I held all that artwork.
Mhm.
Uh, Especially that John Byrne and the Michael Golden one that was right next to it. Those were stolen from Marvel,
Ah.
and I eventually did find them and returned them back. But again, it was like once I saw those covers, like, oh yeah, I remember those covers.
Yeah. Yep. All right, let's go for some comments. Captain Infinity says, "I'm just discovering sliders. An interesting take on parallel universes." Uh, I think that it was very good, but there's a point when it starts going downhill after they introduce the Cro-Mags. Uh,
Yeah, it gets really bad once
mm,
those are introduced. It's a fun story, and I stuck with it, hoping it would get better. But once they do that, oh, let's get rid of this character and replace them with a practically a clone of the same character, it starts to
mhm,
get bad.
yeah.
Enjoy it while you can. It's has some really good stuff, but as suggested, once each of the characters start going, you, you can kind of like let it go as well.
Mhm,
But it was a fun premise, and it had some really good ideas. And the
yeah.
alternate universe type stuff was a lot of fun.
Yep. Meyer says, "I read that early Star Lord. I enjoyed it at the time. I I loved Marvel Premiere as a kid because of the variety. Yeah,
Yep.
there's a lot of interesting stuff, especially when they're just trying to do science fiction stories without a main character. There's some interesting things that kind of got lost. They'll never be reprinted. Lots of odd cheesy character one shots. Yeah, there's an issue that with Blade, which also has a Satana story, which I think was a leftover from Vampire Tales. Missing Mars is here. Okay, Captain Infinity. I heard that about sliders. Thank you for the warning. Yeah,
Uh,
Eh, eh, to me, you kind of lose something after John Rhys Davis quits the show,
yeah,
and the way they dump him did not sit well with me. But it, the Chromax storyline, and then they get rid of Quinn Mallory and replace him with a clone. After that, forget it.
yeah, and again, the Crowman stories are just hideous, story wise, because you have stories at that point. They're just wanting to do whatever they can to the actress because they didn't like that she left, and so they just did no good to that character at all.
Tit Goblin is
Hey,
finally here.
Goblin, hello,
Yeah,
welcome.
we missed you at the beginning, but then again, I was not supposed to host today. We still have no idea what happened to Jared. He probably still has no internet connection.
Yeah, unfortunately so. It says I saw the note, internet's off. It's like, dag,
And
it
yeah,
happens.
in less than an hour before the show started,
Yeah,
so I had to create a thumbnail for this, and luckily I still have all my hours. I still haven't managed to get Restream up and running because it doesn't seem as easy to set up. Because when I set up StreamYard in advance, the video preview shows up in advance on YouTube, and on Restream it does not. And
oh, okay.
I don't know why that happens. So I don't know if what happens if I just started a live stream and it's not actually broadcasting.
Right. Yeah, I have not even looked into that myself. I've been using more of the for YouTube. I've just been putting up shorts, but I haven't actually filmed anything in quite some time. Or actually, I haven't uploaded because I have plenty of stuff I filmed. I just have not uploaded any of uh but I haven't looked into doing a live in quite some time, so I'm not even sure how their system is set up.
Mhm. Well, if you just want to do a live show, you just press the YouTube go live on YouTube, because you don't have guests. What
Right.
happened when Google dumped Google Hangouts? Um, they made it hard to do lives with guests, and that's how StreamYard showed up. But now they want more money,
Of course
and
they do.
something else from the 70s, Warlock, and I have this one in essential, so it's the
Okay.
whole shebang in black
Yep.
and white in newsprint. But the thing about Warlock, it, you can't see it as a see everything as a continuation, but there's definitely a difference between the Counter Earth storyline and the and Jim Starling's stories. And there are a few changes in writers and artists. I mean, Gil Kane does the art in the beginning, like here when he's brought back by the High Evolutionary and given the name Warlock.
So that's starting off from the Gil Kane line.
Yep.
Doesn't go as far back as the origin.
No, it's not. It doesn't have the Fantastic Four and Thor appearances.
Okay.
But I guess it doesn't need them because they do get mentioned. And then he goes to Counter Earth and picks up some disciples, and we have stuff like this. There's one thing about the storyline, because Adam Warlock is set up as the savior of Counter Earth.
Right.
Uh, when the High Evolutionary rests on the seventh day of trying to create Counter Earth, the devil,
Vegas.
the man wolf,
Yeah.
who is one of the High Evolutionary's creations from an animal, turned from an animal into a man. He goes into the Counter Earth and introduces the concept of sin. So it is telling a biblical story. Uh, Adam Warlock goes to Counter Earth. He gets disciples. He gets harassed by the authorities. He meets up a lot of strange characters along the way, including an evil Reed Richards who can turn into a monster called the Brute, and a good Victor Von Doom.
Right.
And then there's this is what made me laugh, because there's an Antichrist, and his name is Rex Carpenter, and I'm like, Rex Carpenter, the King Carpenter, the King of the
Uh-huh.
Jews, the son of the Carpenter. Come on, man, you, you can be a little more subtle with that.
No, not back then. Puns were all the rage.
Yeah, it's the '70s.
Again,
I mean,
70s. I bet you he thought he was clever. I
yeah,
bet you he
it's
was
gonna
thinking
be. Yeah,
it's
the
gonna
Antichrist
be.
is going to be called Rex Carpenter. Get it, get it.
Uh-huh,
Yes, we
uh-huh,
do. We do
uh-huh.
get it. And even this one, it does have to end in like Machine Man. Like Machine Man I showed before. This one also has to go through a 2 or 3 issue arc in the Incredible Hulk to get rid of some of the old plot lines. Here it is.
Yeah, I like that it takes place on Counter Earth because at that point you're basically saying, well, is it part of the Marvel universe or not? And
Well,
then it's like, oh, we'll bring them to Counter Earth where we can do anything we want without the restrictions of the Marvel universe.
mhm. Yeah, but Adam Warlock leaves Counter Earth after being dead and coming back to life in the cocoon,
Right.
and you don't know where he goes. And the next time we see him, he's just somewhere out in space, and it's Jim Starlin. And now you get space afros and cosmic power.
Yep.
So the storytelling in this, it's a lot like what he was doing in Captain Marvel before this, even before Thanos shows up.
Right.
The body language, the poses are the same. The fight scenes, they look a lot alike. Let me see if I can find something there's a and then there's the big floating heads.
You're Starlin, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Warlock is one of my favorites. Yeah, this is very good, and even the Brazilians liked. They as soon as they had a chance to reprint the whole Thanos shebang with the by Starlin with Captain Marvel and Warlock, they did. I have a 5 issue miniseries. Each book is a hundred is a hundred and almost 200 pages, and it has everything and new covers by Mark, which were made specifically for the Brazilian edition
Oh,
by
nice.
Mark Campos. They like the essential lines. Yeah, these were good because
Essential lines were really good. It
yeah.
was that kind of like they looked good on the shelf. You got a big meaty book, but a good price.
Hmm.
The only downside was when you could tell they did not have any of the black and white artwork, so they would just scan in whatever was in color, and that was it.
Yep. When was the first time Marvel did a counter Earth or multi timeline deal? Well, the counter Earth is not a parallel timeline. It's just the planet which is made on the other side of the solar system. Uh, I don't know. I don't know really.
And the
Alternate
most
futures.
they would have alternate futures. You had certain rules in effect from the Fantastic Four that you could travel through time, but you basically create a new timeline. So
Mhm.
it was one of those things that they didn't really do. They mostly travel to the past. Very few characters travel to the future.
Yep.
So yeah, or you had the occasional future person come to the past,
Mhm.
and you didn't have that too many times because when they did it into the Hulk, Harlan Ellison sued.
Yeah.
So you really shouldn't be stealing someone else's concept. Um, so so they stuck away from a lot of the time travel stuff. I almost feel like time travel stuff became the norm a little later.
Yep. I suppose it may have been this Guardians of the Galaxy. It's the first proper
Yeah,
future timeline.
yeah, because they were characters that came back from the future, hung out with the Avengers for a while, and then they eventually had like a solid timeline for a good time.
And here it's this Marvel 2-in-1 issues number 4 and 5.
Right,
When the thing in Captain America go to the future and find the Guardians, and this is the first time that the Guardians show up since that Marvel superheroes,
right,
which puts them immediately in the future of the Marvel universe. But and after this, they continue. So first they show up in the Defenders, and then there's the ongoing series, which 27, 20. They still take up the stories. The guest stories still take up half the book because there are only 9 issues of Marvel yeah, of Marvel Presents, where they have new stories, and begins here.
right.
And I have to tell you, this is probably Al Milgram's best work in his entire career.
You muted yourself.
Yeah. This is probably Al Milgram's best work in his entire career, and it's in the beginning because he's still young, he's still experimenting, he's still willing to go nuts. Like here, this crowd scene, for example, or this one with all the floating heads
Right.
and the rockets, and then of course with the let me see the crazy man. Where's that thing? Not 10, 11. This is the Hawk God. Oh, so this would be 6 or 7. Where's that thing? Where's the here it is. Is this it? No. Dang, where's that? So issue 5. Can't find the one where they go into that planet shaped like a man.
Oh, I don't recall that at all.
Ah, here it
Not talking
is.
about the living monolith, right?
Almost. It's this. And then
Okay.
on the surface there are people living there, and they have a crazy religion.
That's
And
wild. I don't remember that
yeah,
at all.
yeah, exactly. There's a lot of crazy concepts, and this thing is written by Steve Gerber. And it's a when this showed up on previews, I knew just that I had to get this because I
Yeah,
really wanted. I was really interested in reading those stories. I didn't even know what the stories were about, and I was more than pleasantly surprised with the end result.
yeah. Those look like a lot of fun.
Create a new timeline, music to my ears. Star-Lord, Warlock, Guardians. These are all comics that pair well with weed, yeah, or at least some shrooms. Steve Gerber used to say that he didn't take drugs. I don't believe it.
Yeah. For the stories I heard, you didn't have to take them. You just had to walk through the bullpen, and you're going to get a contact.
Yeah, back in Ike's day, you just couldn't do that.
No, not at all.
Did he make you guys take piss tests?
There was rumors of would you be willing to kind of a thing, and there was a lot of pushback against it. But it didn't happen. It didn't happen with the employees that were there. But I understand when new people came in, they may have had gotten the test when they got hired. That was the rumor. I don't know anyone who that actually happened to. So that's not one of the things that happened that I was aware of. There was a rumor about it, and there was definitely pushback. And then, okay, that may have been implemented for new people.
Okay.
But I would have passed it because I wasn't doing it. I wasn't doing anything like that.
Yeah, people just couldn't afford drugs in the 90s. They were
No,
expensive.
they weren't paying enough. They weren't paying us enough to do that.
I mean, the 70s, the 70s at Marvel, you had this crazy concepts with Warlock and the Guardians of the Galaxy and Kirby coming back. And then you just had some of the most boring stories with the main characters. I mean, the Hulk was exciting if you read it once in a while. I guess Jared would disagree because those were the comics that he was buying. Fantastic Four, they were just repeating everything that Kirby had done. And when they didn't, it wasn't very good, I guess. I don't like those stories with where they have a Thundra hanging around.
Right. Yeah, I don't think I ever like analyzed how each decade went. Like I knew of the '60s stuff because of Marvel Tales, so the reprint stuff. Um, and Marvel Triple Action. So I did get to read older stuff through that. And then the '70s stuff, I only like dipped into it because the Bronze Age was fairly easy to get in the back issue bits. So they weren't anything that was overly great. They were like they kind of the experimental age was done from the '60s. And so the '70s was like that second generation of people doing stuff that's like, oh, here we're going to go with this and that. That was more of a space age time, and sword and sorcery. So those were the things that were going on. I didn't really like. I don't have a serious connection to the '70s stuff. I would say it was like I read them because it was like, ooh, something to read. Because once you read everything that you're currently reading, the back issues are easy to find because they're $25. Sorry, they're $2. They're like 25 cents because they had the 25 cents bins, and you would go through and get like maybe 3 or 4 issues if you were lucky that was continuous. So maybe you get a whole story and then you dip into what was going on in the '70s, but nothing really stands out to me of that time. And sure, new superheroes were being created, but it was a slow burn for it to be anything. Like Wolverine was created in the 70s, and how long before he becomes something? You know,
Right.
that there's a good amount of years before, between Wolverine appearing and then him becoming Wolverine, for lack of a better term. So, there was experiments going on like that a lot. And then there's probably more, first appearance of a character who was never seen again
Hmm.
during that time. And what was the Hulk doing? He wasn't he like being shrunk down and living in another dimension for a little
He,
while?
he got sent into Jor-El's world, then he came back because Jor-El died. He spent a lot of time going back and forth into Soviet Union, and he met up with a weird submarine with people who couldn't live on the surface. Uh, there was the odd alien and monster that he met up with, and all of a sudden he was back in the U.S. And General Ross and Doc Simpson were looking for him, but he meets up with some new kids like Jim Wilson and Fred, not Fred Ross. Can't remember, but it was a hippie with a. It was a long haired hippie in the late 70s. so,
Yeah, yep.
so,
So I know some of those characters, and so again, but I wasn't reading any of that at that time. So like, 'cause comic books to me didn't exist until the 80s.
mhm,
I mean, I knew they existed before that. I'm pretty sure my first comic book when I was a kid in the 70s would have been Batman, but not enough to keep up. And older stories, again, the essentials were good for that, being able to backtrack and read older stuff. And 70s Spider-Man, they had a bunch of characters, but it became the villain of the month kind of a category. So was the stories moving forward? Yeah, Peter is on his own, trying to go to college and stuff like that, but nothing. But of course, we have the death of Gwen. Things like that were big at the time, and printing books without the code on it. So there was important stuff happening, but those were like important events, and then it was quiet for a long time, and then something big, and then quiet again, kind of a thing
mhm.
going on with the 70s. Yeah, it was like, I think that Marvel was comfortable in what they were doing, and they kind of, I wouldn't say coast, but it was like they were doing well and they were experimenting with some stuff. And I think they might have been spending more of their time getting licenses, around, especially with Star Wars being a big thing. That was 77, I think, when Marvel started doing Star Wars stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, and I think they got big enough to be like, oh, you want to make a comic of your characters, you got to go to Marvel. So I think they were really pushing that at that time.
Hmm. Did you know anyone that filled up a condom with someone else's clean urine back in the day?
No.
No. A friend of mine in the 80s had me do that. I didn't smoke weed at the time. Yeah. What was the Avengers 8 story? Avengers 8.
Oh, which 8 stories the Guardians of the Galaxy appeared in? Maybe that was the Kovacs saga.
The Korvac saga that was in the 170s. Oh, or Fantastic Four 19. Okay. Are those the? I think those are the Immortus stories in the Avengers. Kang predates Immortus by a couple of issues. Ramatut is the first time traveler in the Marvel universe. No, wait. No, you have the Fantastic Four going back in time
and
to
running
find
into
Blackbeard's treasure.
right.
Then you have them going back in time and meeting Ramatut. Then you have the Avengers with first Kang, then Immortus, and then Immortus I think also shows up on Fantastic Four.
Right. And I was it at that time period they were just different characters, or did they connect them way back then? That I don't recall.
But those are not those are not a Counter Earth or even a multi timeline. You have the okay. So when Killraven was merged into the Guardians of the Galaxy timeline in the 90s. So in the 70s, they're still not connected. But it's quite clear that the Guardians of the Galaxy is supposed to be an alternate timeline. It's not a direct continuation of the Marvel universe.
Right, because Vince Astro changed the timeline,
Mhm.
convincing young Vince not to become an astronaut.
Yeah, and Thundra in Fantastic Four comes from the world of the Femazons, which was a science fiction story that Stan Lee and John Romita Sr. had done in Savage Tales #1,
Right,
where the women took over the planet and the men were weak. So Thundra comes from that future, and meets up with the Fantastic Four, and she's looking for somebody stronger than her, which is how she hooks up with the thing.
right,
The part about Vince Astro. Okay, Vince Astro, Major Victory is one of the original members of the Guardians. He was he took a 1,000-year trip beginning in the 20th century to go to another solar system, another planetary system. But by the time he got there, they had discovered interstellar flight, warp drive, and so they've been waiting centuries for him. And he gets there, and all of this has been in vain. I lost all of my friends. I've been alive for 1,000 years. Can't take off the suit, and for nothing.
yeah,
So he goes back to Earth, and Earth is being conquered by the Badoon. But it's only in this Marvel 2-in-1 that they appear as a potential future.
right. So yeah, at that time it was like basically anyone who came from the future to Marvel was like it was a possible future,
Right.
and that eventually gets established with Days of Future Past, with John Byrne, and again it was always any time travel going on. There was no effect of the sacred timeline.
Mm-hmm.
Anything could possibly happen.
The world's when the aliens return and when, yeah.
Right. So yeah, that's how they connect Wars of the Worlds to the Marvel Universe and the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
Future is basically that was still part of their history. So it
Yeah.
was still not really Marvel Universe, or
And
not proper Marvel Universe.
yep, and that Van Astro story is in a Marvel 2-in-1, number 69, because after the Korvac saga, the Guardians, they don't have their own book anymore, so they stick around the present for a while. They appear in a couple of Marvel team ups, Miss Marvel, and Marvel 2-in-1, and in that Marvel 2-in-1, Vance Astro goes to meet up with his younger self, and since the kid is a mutant, he activates his powers, and now he won't become an astronaut, so he won't travel to another solar system.
Right.
Yep, 69.
All right.
We're going on around and round about time travel, but yeah, I suppose that the first time we have an actual future that deals directly with versions of current characters is Days of Future Past.
Yeah, that
Because
probably is the first one. Because again, all the other time travels were way out there.
Mhm.
Deathlock came back in time. That's how he
Mhm.
was introduced, and I think
Yeah.
those were Marvel team ups.
Deathlock appeared in Astonishing Tales. And then the storyline, he does appear in a Marvel team up because there's a series of Marvel team ups where Spider-Man is going back and forth in time. So he
Yeah.
meets up with Deathlock. He meets up with a Kill Raven.
Right.
Um,
Red Sonja,
and
because he goes back.
no, Red Sonja's in the present.
Is it?
She's
Oh,
yeah,
that's right. Mary Jane becomes possessed. That's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yes.
And then Deathlock does come to the present, and the story gets wrapped up in that Captain America three-parter.
Right. The Mike
And
Zeck
it's
issues.
yeah, and it's in that Captain America three-parter that they reveal that is a potential future of the Marvel universe because there are no superheroes in
Right.
Deathlock. But when he comes back, it was all part of the Roxxon Corporation, a plan to get rid of all the superheroes. And Deathlock in then Deathlock meets up with the Thing. There's a Marvel Twin one, and they take care of it. They get rid of the Nth Command.
Right.
So
Comics.
yeah, they have to put everything in the Marvel universe.
Yes.
Going backwards, creating a new timeline is the easiest way to go elsewhere, as long as you don't have too many backwards journeys. Well, yeah, sure. I mean, they don't want. That's the way to avoid paradoxes, because you really don't want the character to go back in time and become his own grandfather.
Although it worked in Futurama. And it's like, with and then by the time you have the Fantastic Four, who are known for time traveling, then you get introduced to the Time Authority and, Mobius, who's drawn to look exactly like Mark Gruenwald, because he
Mhm,
was really good at keeping time travel stuff somewhat organized.
mhm.
And so those were, and again, that's when they were really concentrating on continuity and what you can do until, Age of Apocalypse shows up and tosses everything out the
Oh yeah,
window,
I
where it
think
was like, that's where it was decided, hey, what if it does really affect the timeline? Let's go back and kill Professor X. And that was the first broken rule at Marvel.
yeah. But then they have it's a 4-issue miniseries for all intents and purposes, so it does go back to normal.
Yeah.
But they were toying with the idea so that happened around Marvolution, yeah.
Yes, that was around the same time that they were really trying everything. This is after the Image guys go,
Mhm.
and it's like, all right, let's let's go extreme. Let's do Image without having Image guys there. So let's test out everything.
Yeah, everybody gets jackets.
Yep.
But that's one thing. Since there's a separation in the editorial offices, they don't meet up with each other, and Grunwald has no excuse to to try to keep the timeline coherent because now it's another office, and that office gets to do whatever they want.
Yeah. Wild times.
Uh, Still talking about Time Cop here. I need to rewatch Time Cop because of the 69 timelines. The last 45 minutes of Time Cop is very consistent with Back to the Future. There's even 2 on-screen Max Walkers like there's 2 on-screen Marty McFlys. Right, they go back to their time, and time changed. It shouldn't have. But then again, Marty goes into Marty goes into the past. The timeline changes. Then he goes into the future, and that future comes back when Biff brings the almanac back, and that changes the Marty's present. But then Marty goes back in time again, and he puts all the timeline right. Then he goes back into the past again, and now it changes everything again. There's no consistency in Back to the Future.
Hmm. Not at all, but it's still so much fun. Jet Li's. Oh, the one.
Mhm.
Saw that
I remember.
last month. Yeah, that was
Mhm.
a fun one. That's if people didn't see Jet Li the one, it was basically you have the multiverse, and that person exists in every one of them. But if that person is killed, this one evil Jet Li figures out that the more Jet Lis that are killed, because I don't remember the character's name, the more that are killed, the ones who remain gets their powers, and somehow they get stronger until they can only be one. And so now you have the two of them left, and they go after each other. Cinematically, story wise, which is cool, is that Jet Li basically had two different types of fighting style. The evil one had one type of fighting style, and the good one had a different one. And it was an interesting concept to say the least, because he had lost friends along the way, but then he was able to see his old captain in another universe and kind of like pour his heart out to him and say I'm sorry, and then just disappears. The guy's like, who's not a captain at that lifetime. I think he works in a garage, and it's like, what the hell was that all about? So it had nice concepts, and that was again a fun movie and some cool one-liners.
Two Martys on screen on the first Back to the Future. Yeah,
Yeah,
they because when he comes back and Marty's escaping from the Libyans.
yep. And technically, he goes back to a future that was definitely changed. And what happened to the Marty that would have lived that life? Because the Marty that's there has no memory of what his life was. His parents are doing well. His father's a published author. He's living someone else's life at that
Right,
point. So the Marty that went back in time, that he witnessed going back in time, that Marty technically dies, because that's a
right.
different Marty. So it's
Mhm.
like, ooh, there's something missing in Back in Future, and that
Right.
Marty didn't
Yeah.
make it. He did not survive. So there is the theory that every time Marty went back in time and died, Doc was there to fix it. Because there's a few times Doc magically appears when Marty needs him. Like when he's in the tunnel with Biff chasing after him, Doc is there with a ladder. How did he know to even be there? So Doc must have seen Marty die a bunch of times, and he kept going back in time that we're not aware of.
Mhm.
That's the only way that could possibly make sense.
For Cavern writing a 100-page dissertation.
I want my
uh,
money.
I'm sorry, Captain. Nobody is going to pay you money to read a 100-page dissertation on Back to the Future. I'm sorry. You can't do a YouTube series about it.
Yeah,
Decoding Back to the Future. Why Marty's dead and the wrong Marty's living in the right timeline.
exactly. And you could go as far as saying that why his girlfriend looks different from each movie.
Mhm. The one had that bullet time special effect that became popular. Yeah, yeah. Everybody thinks that bullet time started in the Matrix, but it wasn't, right?
I am not too sure, because I think they call it bullet time for the Matrix, but
Right.
I don't know if they may have perfected it.
Mhm.
Um, but I don't know timeline wise. I am not too sure.
Marty A stole Marty's B's girlfriend. It's a mess. And Marty B's truck. You better tell that to my publisher. I'm not telling anything to your publisher. If you can convince your publisher that's worth publishing, take the money and run.
Exactly.
Not aware of any of the three Martys dying in the first movie. Yeah, we didn't see it.
We didn't see it. We were only this is just all speculation, you know.
Right.
Because again, it wasn't really made to really sit down and analyze. It's like,
Exactly.
here, enjoy this, and you know, here's the guy from Taxi.
This conversation proves there's interest in the topic. Well, there's 8 people watching, so with the two of us, that's 10 people.
Yeah, And again, if you want to really blow your mind, think about this. What was Star Trek 3 about? People stealing a time machine from Christopher Lloyd and then going back in time and changing stuff.
Hmm. Exactly. So in the future, Doc becomes a Klingon.
Yep. Who has who has a ship that they steal the ship from him and they go back in time to go save the whales.
They steal two. So the whales are already endangered in the 20th century, and
Yeah.
they steal two of them, making them more endangered. I wonder what happened to those whales after they got there. I mean, there is no other whales. If the whales are extinct, they're just going around the ocean talking to each other.
Yes, they have their pod. We don't know how many babies are born. I am sure there is alpha. There's B canon for it because Star Trek. There's a novel somewhere letting us know what happened to those whales.
We could actually find out. Let's see if memory beta is still there.
It should be. I was on memory. Well, I was on memory alpha not too long ago.
Right, but if there's a novel, it's on memory beta because it's
Right.
non-canon.
Right.
Okay, so let's go look for whales. That's what I like about the internet.
Yep.
We can find out everything now.
May not all be
Especially,
true, but it's there.
and it may not be useful in any way, but it's there.
Right. And there are whales on the Cerrito. So there are whales serving in Starfleet, or at least there's dolphins serving in Starfleet. It may be a whale or two if you watch Lower Decks.
Whales.
George and
Motivation.
Gracie, and I don't know how many they may have.
Okay, here it is. So they appear in a short story called The Hero of My Own Life, which is published in the Strange New Worlds 2 anthology. They don't tell me what the story's about. And they're mentioned in the Next Generation technical manual.
There you
So
go.
they're
So they are, I guess we could say, thriving. The Probe. There was a novel after the movie that came out, so the Probe itself is damaged, but it doesn't remember everything. It remembers a few things here and there, but it was attacked by who we're assuming is the Borg at some point. So that's why it has memory gaps. And then, again, the whales were brought to the future just for it to communicate with the probe, and then the probe goes away. So they didn't really need to repopulate. And I don't know if they ever said that the future has a repopulation of the whale. But because of time travel, we do know that that movie did save the whales. So the future might have whales now. And it was like during the Star Trek timeline, all the whales were on the west and on the east coast when the probe was attacking the west coast. There you go.
Star Trek 4 spits in the face of Edith Keeler. Yes, that's right. It does. She was Kirk's girlfriend and who had to die in order to save the world.
Yep.
The city of the edge of forever.
If you want to read a very good set of novels, read The Crucible, Captain Kirk, The Crucible, McCoy, and The Crucible, Spock. Those all three deal with what happens after that episode. and how it affects each individual character. The Crucible McCoy was fascinating because it tells you the history McCoy lived when he went and changed the past. So him being there, it basically follows that alternate history of his life and what happens. So you see how him being there changes the future. So you get that story for the McCoy one. Kirk one, you get more into what his life is like with that pain. I remember the McCoy one more than the Kirk one, and those were written by his last name is Cox, Cox. I forget his first name. But those were good because they also read like episodes of Star Trek, so I like that about it. He does a good one. He also does a series about after they leave Khan on the planet. It's called the Rain in Hell series, and that fills in the gaps. And they do the best they could to fill in how the eugenics wars was like on Earth, and why we who are living through the 90s that none of this stuff happens. It explains what real world events happen and was really the eugenics wars, but it was covered up.
Mhm.
So I
Hey,
found that to be interesting.
do you know what's the future in which the augments win? It's the Jetsons.
Really?
Yep. According to the Wool Newtonians, if Colonel Green wins, a lot of people die. Uh, Earth gets to. Everybody has to live above the clouds, and it's the Jetsons.
Ah, okay. There's also that rumor that the Jetsons and the Flintstones are happening at the same time,
Yeah.
and the Flintstones are living on the Earth that was destroyed, and that's why the technology is kind of there but not there, and why you have talking animals because they're all mutations.
Hmm. Yeah, that one does make sense because it makes it easier for the Flintstones meets the Jetsons movie to just doesn't involve so that doesn't involve time travel. Uh, the Wall Newtonians have an interesting one about the Flintstones. Uh, Tarzan went back in time to 10,000 years ago, and he tried to create technology that would allow him to come back. It didn't, and Tarzan had to live out those 10,000 years because he's immortal.
Uh-huh.
And that version of Tarzan eventually got hit in the head and became the Johnny Weissmuller movie version,
Okay.
which explains why Johnny Weissmuller says things like me, Tarzan, you, Jane.
I guess that makes sense.
Also, two of the people that lived in that time are Fred and Barney are also immortal. They're trying. They usually have run-ins with the immortals from the movie and try to get away from them and eventually become Abbott and Costello.
That's an interesting concept. But
Well,
how do you connect them with the smooth?
mm, they didn't waste much time. The World Newtonians also apparently don't care about Mr. Gazoo.
Okay.
Hey, I don't care about Mr. Gazoo. It doesn't make any sense.
No, it was just it's just when you're dealing with imps from the fifth dimension, a lot of times it's like, let's not go there. Though the very interesting concept that was dropped in My Adventures with Superman is that all the Mixolydics are the same guy in all the different incarnations that we've ever seen him in. So every time he's gone to different, he's just traveling a multiverse as well. So there's just one of him, and he's the same one in the TV shows, in the comic books, in the movies. Whenever he shows up, because there was that again, really good series, animated series, My Adventures with Superman, because um, he also, again, his doing magical stuff. He switches Superman into different incarnations,
Mhm.
and you get to see most of the animated stuff, and it's pretty cool. And then one of them, he's a crab, and then Superman's like, "Was I a crab for a second? I think I was a crab," and it's just, again, fun comic book stuff that you don't take too serious, and I enjoy it because you know Superman's been around 70 something years, if not more, and I've read a good chunk of his stories, and sometimes I enjoyed the weird stuff from the 60s, the odd golden age stuff where you had weird superpowers. So this show is cool because you go in knowing stuff, and it's like, okay, are we going to live through the same stuff again? It's like, no, they put a nice different twist to it. And because of that, it's like, oh, this is this story, but a little bit of difference to it that makes it a lot of fun. So I enjoy it because of that. So if everyone hasn't tried it, give that a good try because it's a lot of fun.
Mhm. In the meantime, do you have any comics left from this week?
From this week, no, these let's see, Battle Beast, Superman, Wolverine, Spider-Man, Wolverine, G.I. Joe. Nope, these are all the books that I had gotten this week. No new comic book stuff or old comic book stuff, even though I've been going through a bunch of stuff here and there. I had found recently, and I haven't decided what I want to do with these, are some old heavy metals from the 90s.
Hmm.
So I was going through some of my magazine stuff. Um, for a while I was picking up Omni, and then after that, so I have some heavy metal issues in no particular order. These are mostly from 92 and 93. So I think I was deciding if I wanted to try to sell these or batch them up. Covers from heavy metal. I remember I was going through them, looking at the covers. It's like I don't remember a single storyline
Hmm.
of any of these, and
Yeah, I don't think they had storylines because they were reprinting albums in their entirety.
right.
And as for the American made stories, those are shorts. So
And for some reason, well, I know the reason, but Inside Karate,
I,
so I picked that up because of Xena and uh, Hercules on this. But it's most likely because I wanted the Xena story.
Hmm.
Let's see. So yeah, so I've just been going through, and it's like, okay, what am I going to do with these magazines? They don't sell all that well on eBay, but part of me is like, I don't really feel like tossing them out. So what I was thinking of doing is maybe just like putting a stack together to just sell a chunk. What else? Oh, heavy metal pinup.
Hmm.
These were pretty fun. Let's see. Uh, Art by Olivia. And I know I have a card set from this time period. I'm sure there has to be a Mobius in here somewhere. Yeah, I'll just show the art in general.
Mhm.
This would be a good book to just revisit and do a video. There's nudity.
Of course, it's heavy metal.
Exactly. So there's some shots there. And it looks like there is a story. There is a story in here. Front to see if it credits in. The last 10 women I've known.
Hmm.
So there is a story in here. So this is definitely something I'll revisit and look through. Yeah, so again, good fun stuff to revisit. And as I look at the artwork, it's like I remember the pinup stuff, but I don't remember that. That might be the only story that's in it. It's a pretty long story. End on this one.
Oh, that's some Corbin.
Yep. Let's see. Star Wars Technical Journal. Yeah. So you got the blueprints to some droids. To do a video on this one. But I have technical journals from Star Trek and Next Generation. Because, you know, I was going to build my own ship once. It was fun stuff. I keep these because every now and then I do get to draw the Star Wars sketch cards. So, you know, these are good for like background stuff and concepts. You know, I've drawn that a few times. And if you want to see what the Sarlacc looks like in its full body, there you go. So fun stuff like that. Just been going through, deciding, should I keep this? Should I get rid of that? You know, and I start flipping through, and it's like, I don't really want to get rid of this. I like it, and you know, so I end up not getting rid of anything. But you know, slowly I've been putting new stuff onto my eBay store just to, you know, get rid of some of this stuff because it's just there's a lot of stuff, and you know, I don't think I'm going to open a museum anytime soon. So there's no reason to keep a lot of this stuff. And then it's like, okay, I don't want to sell like one item. So I think if I put them together as a bundle, I think it's more, you know, I get rid of stuff quicker, and it's kind of fun curating a few things. I'm working on what I would call, do I have one right around here? I have an idea for like a box set of comics. I guess I must have it in the other room where I have like about 5 comic books together. Like I have a Spider-Man set, so it has all like 5 issues of Spider-Man, and it's more like, you know, they're in good condition, fair condition, not something to be graded, but enough to go, oh, if you wanted to like start your kid on a set, here you have 5 issues of Spider-Man. You get an issue number 1, so you even start off with a first issue, bagged and board, and then add stuff extra into it, like a set of cards, because I got a ton of those Marvel cards. So I was, you know, putting stuff like that together, and maybe even thinking of putting in a little toy with it too. I haven't figured out that yet. I have like, funny enough, I have a box of yo-yos from some time period that Toy Biz made a slew of yo-yos that were selling for like for a quarter. So I was like, oh, I'll put that in the bag and, you know, do a little box set to see if anyone be interested in that. Oh, and a pin. So it's like, all right, now I just got to figure out a price for something like that. And again, it's more of a, again, it's not really for collectors. It's more like, oh, does your kids want to get into comics? Here's their first little bundle of stuff. So this way here, they don't go after your comics. You bought them a set of books to like, here, try these out, that kind of thing. And who knows if that would work. So that's what I'm going to test out. So I made one for the Punisher, one for Wolverine, one for Spider-Man, and one for Ghost Rider. And then I just got to post them up, see if they do well.
Cool. All right, some comments now. Someone picked The Curse of Shirley from TMP. I don't know what that is.
I don't know what that is either.
Oh, The Curse of Spawn. What happened at The Curse of Spawn?
Curse of Spawn.
Is there a curse in... I don't know which Spawn books are out
Yeah.
this week. And even Jared isn't picking up all the... Okay, so there's the medieval Spawn. There's a gunslinger. That's it, I think.
Yeah, and I think there's one in the future, or I don't know if it's Spawn himself, but in that universe, I think there's something for the future.
Of course, Spawn is going to go in the direction it always does. Not many places, but I don't think there's... Yeah. Spawn's from last week. No, there's no guns. Yeah, there's no Curse of Spawn.
And I didn't watch Jarrett's pickup, so I don't know if he picked up any Spawn stuff this week.
I don't think he did. Colin Cantwell and Ralph McQuarrie have some very cool Star Wars concept art.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I have a ton of because again, I did a lot of the Star Wars sketch cards, so I have a ton of material for Star Wars. Yeah, I have this thing called Star Wars 365, and it has a ton of stuff in it. It also came with a CD. I can't find a CD. I lost that like the first week I got this book. Well, not lost it. I misplaced it. But it has tons of background stuff and pictures not seen before. What is funny is that one of the rules that we have in being a Star Wars sketch card artist is that you can't use production photos. It has to be images that were actually in the film. So, like something like this, where it's like the breakdown of what one of the scenes are, we couldn't draw something like that. It would need to be, it could be inspired by this stuff, but again, it's like, this scene didn't really take place in the movie anywhere, but we could draw something like this.
Mhm.
So it's like little things that you can and can't do. Like we couldn't redo this picture because Scipio doesn't have legs, and there's a camera in the shot. So something like that would, recreating this kind of image, even though it's a Star Wars image, could not be done in sketch card.
Mhm.
But if we were to have C-3PO standing with Leia next to Luke, you could reimagine this in this angle, that type of thing. So it's like little, not weird, but little oddities that pop up from time to time. But this is a great book just to see the background stuff and the kind of artwork that was being done at the time, because that's just a matte painting.
Mhm.
So these types of stuff I have a bunch of just because of doing so many of those cards for Tops.
Shirley Johnson. Okay, yeah. I'm not sure that Jared's buying this one. This is $6, so Shirley Johnson is the one shot with a. I'm not sure if it's a one shot or if it's an ongoing series, but it's one of Bill Kincaid's victims. So I find it a little bit hard that they would go back to the story with that, but okay. Yeah, but I'm not sure that Jared bought that. Jared did buy the Greg Rucka's Lazarus because it's back. There's a news, and it's in a format that Jared doesn't really like because it's more expensive. But since he would have mentioned Greg Rucka, I went and got Queen and Country from off the shelf.
Oh, okay.
So Queen and Country was a spy series set in Britain, and this came out around 2002, 2003? No, a little bit after that, I guess. So, but I have all of 2002, yeah, and I have all of the series in trade paperback. And they're actually quite small. They were affordable. They're black and white,
Oh, cool.
and the art always changed from arc to arc.
Different artist or just the art style?
Different artist.
Oh, okay.
So this is still in the same arc, but working with negative space here. But they managed to get the character looks interesting, consistent from book to book. So this is going to be book 2. So book 1 is by Steve Rolston, and book 2 has art by wait. What was that thing? Brian Hurt. And Brian Lee O'Malley did the inking in one issue. So you can tell that it's a different artist.
Okay.
See, the people don't look the same. But the characters do. So they do keep the designs.
All right, so you don't get lost really. It's just
Yeah.
close enough to continue the story.
Mm-hmm. And this one is volume 3. So this one is art by Leandro Fernandez. So it's kind of different. The guy who smokes cigarette is the director of operations. So they do spend a lot of time here. There's a character sheet at the beginning here always, so that you don't get lost.
Right. I remember seeing them on the shelves, but I never picked them up.
Yeah, this one's kind of different because the shadows. He plays a lot more with shadow in negative space. I even think that the art is actually more cartoony here, and you can see more movement on this one.
Yeah, reminds me a little bit of Powers at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think there were only 30 something issues, and there were a couple of novels, and there was also a spin-off called Queen and Country Declassified, and these are stories set in the past, and the guys who are division chiefs in the normal books are field agents in here. Who drew this one? This is also Brian Hurt, who did the second volume.
Oh, okay.
But you can tell some of these guys are from the regular books, but they look younger. So yeah, this is a pretty good read. Nothing very fancy, but the characters' personalities are very good. They're very realistic. Nobody tries to play it for as James Bond or anything of the sort. And
Right.
it's a good read. You're following the lives of these people, and they're not good lives precisely because they're spies, and a few of them are even actually licensed to kill, so they don't feel good about it. And the divisional chiefs are always annoyed at the amount of paperwork, and then there's a British lord who's their contact at the ministry, and he goes there and he kind of annoys them in a paternalistic tone, and they hate it. So it's definitely more about the lives of the people than the spy action. The spy action is there to hook you, and there's
Right.
always a good amount of action in every arc. But if you follow the series, you do end up falling in love with the characters.
That's good. Put that on the list too.
So I don't know exactly if Queen and Country you can still buy collected editions of that. It has been a while, and I'm not if they're probably bigger volumes because this ones are pretty small. They're like some are 80 something pages, some are only 100 under less than 110. There's nothing really big here.
Who publishes them again?
These were done by Oni Press way back in the day.
Okay.
And when they came out, they were pretty cheap. So we're talking about about 100 pages, black and white. And even in 2002, they were about $9, $10. Something from Marvel or DC at the same size would be about 12.
I have to double check my trade paperbacks because it is possible I may have picked up one or two to test out and just put it on the bookshelf and never went back to it.
Yeah, I did that with David Lapham's crime comic. What was it called? We've talked about it a lot of times, and now I'm forgetting.
I'm not
David
too
Lapham.
sure. I know I did that with there was an Omni book that I did that with. That was it was
Stray
about
Bullets.
models. You did with Stray Bullets.
Yeah, Stray Bullets. I bought the first volume and I never went back and got the rest. It's about Shirley Johnson. First issue sold out in the USA. Ongoing with bi-monthly and to hardcore fans of the Spawn universe. Yeah. Okay. I mean, it's kind of a strange concept to explore, but if it works, it works. That's
Yeah.
good. And Daniel is Portuguese, and he started as an inker, and he's now been doing good work. So I think he's going to become a hot name in the years to come. Hopefully, he'll get a. The thing is, you can't get a decent paying job as artist at Marvel and DC nowadays. So I don't really know what they're going to do. What an artist to do to become a superstar.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I mean, so far Marvel and DC seems to be running along. I'm more interested in what's going on with Diamond. The whole I don't know how much you've been keeping up with that, where there's something new daily about what's happening, and the latest thing that I read is that they're the bankruptcy portion of Diamond because you have two Diamonds. You have Old Diamond, which is bankrupt, and then you have New Diamond that's like, we're not Old Diamond, so don't talk to us. And you have so many publishers who have books sitting in Diamond warehouses, and Diamond's like, yeah, we're going to sell that, but we're not going to send any of that money to you. We're going to pay off what they owe to Chase, and then they're closing their doors, and then that's it. And there's going to be a lot of publishers who's counting on that money who's not getting any of that money, and it's just wild. And New Diamond, of course, they're a different company, so they're saying, we're not dealing with that. And every day I see that, another today, matter of fact, uh, whatever deal DC's made, DC now has two different distributors, but they're both they're both paying DC the same amount. So it's not like one company is trying to undercut another company. So it's interesting that we now have maybe four distributors out there, and I keep hearing that there's another one in the horizon. So it's fascinating to watch, but it's scary at the same time because there's only so many outlets that comic books are being sold at, and I don't know.
Yeah. I think Old Diamond is cooked. New Diamond has no interest in comics, and most likely scenario is that the smaller publishers will bend about a distributor who's willing to work with low print runs.
Yeah.
But apart from that, Diamond UK is going to operate on its own.
Right.
It was already a separate company for all intents and purposes, because Steve Jeppy had two partners on this side of the Atlantic, and they're the ones who distribute to Europe. And since they're the only ones distributing American comics to Europe, they'll continue doing so.
Right.
The British arm was profitable, unlike the American one. But since it's not included in the sale, they'll just keep doing what they're doing. I'm not sure if it's right now if it wouldn't be a better idea for them to split into a continental Europe arm, because there are some tariffs issues when it comes to importing stuff from the UK.
Right. That's the other thing too. It's like it's I always found it fascinating how with the technology of printing stuff that why can't we get more books here? And obviously we would need a printer and an office here to actually physically make books so you don't have to worry about transporting the books and stuff like that. But uh I guess there's not a reverse Panini where I knew we used to send books electronically to Panini and they would print it out over there. So there was no shipping at that point. But I guess there's not that kind of a reverse because Titan, I think, does some reprints of stuff, but I'm not sure if it's the same. Because I'm always fascinated with the concept of, printing it at one country and then shipping it when it could be kind of printed over on the other side of the country already and save
Right.
on shipping. But I guess it's still cheaper to print everything in China and then ship it all over the world.
Absolutely. We do have a bunch of books which are sold here, and they are printed in China. They just have to wait a couple of months for the books to come back.
Right.
And they're all low print runs anyway. Ask Jared if he's interested in having Daniel next. Well, I don't, I don't know. I could contact him, I guess. I'm not sure if any of us have any books. No, actually, I think I'm pretty sure Jared has at least one book by him. But we'll have to check. I'm not even sure if we could make it next week. Depends on who's hosting and on getting it together. But maybe in 2 weeks. Yeah, time to jet. Yeah, Andrew probably reaching the end of our show. Do you
Yeah.
have anything else, Wilson?
No, that's pretty much it. Nothing else has been really going on. I've been in my shorts. I've been kind of revisiting some of the old Toy Biz action figures as I rediscovered them. I'm opening boxes and finding them, so I've been doing some videos on them, and that's pretty much it. And then freelance wise, I'm just usually just lettering Loud House and stuff like that. So that's pretty much what's been going on. It's been kind of quiet, and I need to like gear up and figure out what I'm going to bring with me to San Diego next month. So I'll
Oh,
be
cool.
going to the San Diego Comic Con. So that would be that should be a trip because it's been definitely over 10 years, probably 15 years since I've been there. And so it should be interesting. So it's like I'm excited, a little bit of anxiety only because of the sheer amount of people that I know that's going to be there. And then, part of me is like, okay, I'll be there. I know the first day I have a panel, no idea what I'm going to talk about, but I'm going to be sitting with Apex Comics talking about the books they're working on, and they always tell me, all right, if you want to promote any of your books, and it's like I don't really have any. I have something in production right now that I got to finish doing, but announcing that, hey, I'm working on something. It's like, yeah, yeah, I'm working on this. I gotta finish it, but it's not going to be for sale until probably a few months after that. So it's like, yeah, I guess I could promote it, but at the same time, it's like, okay, so what else am I going to talk about? So it's a little bit of nervousness in that, but other than that, I'm looking forward to it. And it's just the anxiety of having to walk around is going to be something because I have no real agenda. So I really should just look at the website, see who's going there, so I could check out whatever panels. Again, there's so much going on, and even though I'll be there for pretty much a week, not too sure. And I guess I'll attempt to call in on that Friday, but I make no promises.
Yeah. Well, you'll have the time difference as well, so
Yeah,
you could bet that you're still at the con at the time we go live. So
that's
yes.
very true because that'll be 3 o'clock
Hmm.
uh over there. So we'll see.
No read, rip, and slab. Jared warned us a little over half an hour before the show started that he didn't have internet, so I had to whip up a thumbnail on short notice and get everything together, and we had some issues connecting. But yeah, we managed to get the show going on. So thank you everyone for stopping by, and especially to Eric P, who also could share some moments with us. If I may do this in the future if we're short staffed, I'll just throw the link on the chat, and if anybody's interested in coming, we'll all talk some.
Yeah, that was
All
fun.
right,
All
all
right.
right. So hopefully we'll be back on Jared's channel next week if there are no issues with the internet. So make sure that you're subscribed to him so you can keep following us there. See you all later.
Take care. Have a great